Imagine you spend like 4 years and over $100,000 building this absolute top-of-the-line supercomputer.
Okay, yeah.
The hardware is completely flawless, but the day you finally plug it in and turn it on to actually do a job, you get an error message.
Oh, no.
Right. It tells you your software is already 18 months out of date.
That is brutal.
You literally can't process anything. And I mean, that scenario right there is the exact reality that millions of brilliant college graduates are waking up to the moment they enter the modern workforce.
It is, it's an incredibly frustrating reality to confront.
Yeah.
Because you have these young adults who have spent years rigorously honing their intellects, demonstrating massive discipline.
Doing everything right, basically.
Exactly, doing everything right. And yet they hit the job market and instantly feel like they are completely unequipped to do the actual work required on day one.
And that profound disconnect is our mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at a really compelling white paper titled Closing the Loop: How Higher Education Can Conquer the Velocity Gap and Empower the Future Workforce.
It's such a fascinating read.
It really is. We are going to figure out how higher education can adapt to these lightning-fast industry changes, but without losing its academic soul in the process. We're talking about real-time market data, AI-driven microlearning, and bridging the gap between stable core curricula and wild industry demands.
To picture the core tension we're dealing with today, just imagine walking into a classic, hundreds of years old, ivy-covered brick university library.
Oh, I love those. The smell of old paper.
Right, exactly. You have these ancient texts full of timeless wisdom. But now imagine trying to seamlessly integrate these cascading, glowing streams of real-time global market data right onto those wooden shelves.
Without burning the whole building down.
Exactly. It represents this intense collision between deliberate academic tradition and the absolute bleeding edge of the modern economy.
It totally does. Getting a university degree right now feels so much like buying a flagship smartphone. When you buy that top-tier phone, the hardware is incredible. And in this case, the hardware is your brain, right? Your foundational knowledge, the critical thinking skills you've spent years developing. That hardware is built to last a lifetime.
Yeah, the hardware is totally fine.
But the software, the specific technical skills you need to actually operate in today's market, that software feels like it's outdated the exact moment you take the phone out of the box.
Oh, the paper makes a very deliberate point right out of the gate regarding that foundational hardware. Universities are actually not failing at their primary historical job.
Really? Because it kind of feels like people think they are.
I know, but their core mission has always been teaching students how to think. And they are still succeeding at that. The breakdown we're seeing isn't in the deep foundation.
Okay.
The friction is happening in what the paper calls the last mile of job readiness.
The last mile. Yeah, just like in shipping and logistics, moving a package across an ocean is relatively straightforward. But getting that same package from the local distribution center onto your specific front porch.
Always the hardest part.
Always. It's the most expensive, most complicated part of the entire journey.
And in the context of higher ed, that last mile friction is caused by a phenomenon the authors term the velocity gap.
The velocity gap.
Right. It's the natural and frankly maybe inevitable divergence between the deliberate multi-year curriculum cycles of traditional degree programs.
Because those take forever to change.
Right. It's that cycle versus the highly dynamic real-time demands of the global workforce.
I mean, think about the specific software or the platforms you use at your job every single day. Now imagine trying to design a 4-year college course around that exact software.
Good luck for that.
By the time you get the syllabus approved by the department head, secure the funding, get the freshmen into the classroom 4 years later when they graduate, the software might not even exist anymore.
It probably won't. According to the text, the half-life of a learned technical skill is shrinking at a staggering rate.
Wow.
Especially in fast-moving sectors. Things like technology and financial technology, or fintech. The half-life of a specific technical skill is no longer measured in years. It is literally measured in mere months.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because measuring the relevance of your skill set in months is terrifying if you were spending 4 years of your life sitting in a lecture hall.
Oh, absolutely terrifying.
Let's look at the specific industry examples the text provides to really understand this mechanism. Let's start with the tech landscape, because you'd think a computer science degree would be the ultimate golden ticket right now.
Well, a foundational computer science program is still incredibly rigorous and highly valued. Universities are unparalleled at teaching the underlying mathematics, the algorithmic logic, and the structural theories of computing.
The deep stuff.
Exactly. Those are timeless building blocks. If you want to be a great software engineer, you absolutely need that theoretical foundation.
Right, so the student knows how a database fundamentally operates on a mathematical level. They know the theory backwards and forwards.
The pacing challenge is that the specific tools the industry uses to manipulate those databases are rapidly moving targets.
Ah, I see.
A student might master the deep theory of machine learning, but today's employers aren't just looking to discuss theory over coffee.
Yeah.
They demand immediate fluency in things like MLOps.
Machine learning operations.
Yes. A student knows the math behind an algorithm, but MLOps is about the actual plumbing of getting that algorithm onto a live commercial server.
Right.
And because Amazon or Google changes that plumbing every 6 or 12 months, the university syllabus literally cannot keep up.
No way they could.
Employers also want LLM prompt engineering for large language models, or they need graduates who can navigate cloud-native serverless architectures.
And a university can't just, casually swap out a core coding language or completely redesign a senior level course mid-semester just because a massive new AI tool dropped last Tuesday.
Exactly. There are accreditation standards, faculty committees, peer reviews.
So much red tape.
Tons of it. So the result of that administrative reality colliding with the velocity gap is that you have graduates walking out the door with brilliant theoretical minds, but they require months of expensive, time-consuming on-the-job training just to click the right buttons in a modern enterprise tech stack.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
And the source points out this exact same thing is happening in finance, right?
Oh yeah. The financial sector is undergoing a massive structural transformation. Traditional finance programs are fantastic at teaching deep economic principles, monetary theory, and market psychology.
That's the classic stuff.
Right. Whether you are reading Adam Smith or John Maynard Keynes, that knowledge is highly relevant to understanding how markets move.
But the hot new fintech startups don't just want to talk about Keynesian economics in a boardroom.
Not at all. Modern financial institutions and disruptive startups demand professionals who can take that traditional financial knowledge and overlay it with a deep understanding of decentralized finance, or DeFi, protocols.
Right, crypto, blockchain.
Exactly. They need to understand algorithmic trading, how to deploy smart contracts on a blockchain, and how to utilize AI-driven risk modeling. You simply cannot push those hyper-specific, rapidly changing tools through a traditional academic committee fast enough.
So if the specific software, these surface skills are changing every few months, shouldn't universities just abandon the slow, deep theory? I mean, why not just operate like a high-end coding boot camp and teach whatever the tech companies are asking for right this second?
The source material is remarkably firm on this point. Absolutely not. The goal is emphatically not for universities to abandon their rich theoretical foundations to become corporate training centers.
But why not, if that's what actually gets the graduate a job on Monday morning?
Because the intrinsic value of a traditional university degree, the cultivation of a disciplined mind, the exposure to diverse historical perspectives, the intellectual stamina required to tackle complex global challenges, that remains irreplaceable.
Okay, fair point.
If an institution only teaches the tool of the day, they are graduating technicians who will be completely obsolete the moment that tool changes.
Wow.
But if they teach the deep theory, they graduate innovators who can adapt to any tool the future throws at them. The friction is only in that last mile.
Right.
The goal is to figure out how to seamlessly layer these fast-moving, high-demand skills on top of that robust academic foundation without destroying the foundation itself.
Okay, so we have to protect the core academics. The foundation is sacred. But how does academic leadership actually track these rapid market changes if they aren't constantly rewriting the syllabus? I mean, deans and academic administrators aren't exactly known for being agile tech trend spotters.
Right, they really aren't. And that brings us to the macro-level solution proposed in the white paper. If the challenge is the sheer speed of market change, the solution is what they call actionable intelligence.
Actionable intelligence.
Yeah, to conquer this velocity gap, university deans and academic strategists need macro-level dashboards.
Like a real-time control center for higher education. What does a dean actually see when they log into something like that?
They see aggregated, real-time labor market data, skill gaps, and emerging tool sets, specifically tailored to the geographic or industry placement radius of their particular university.
Give me an example of how that works.
Okay, so imagine a dean at a university in Austin, Texas. They pull up their dashboard, and they can see that over the last 90 days, job postings requiring a specific type of cloud security certification have spiked 400% within a 50-mile radius.
Oh, wow.
They don't have to guess what employers want anymore. They have a real-time pulse on employer demand.
So they use this dashboard to essentially predict the future.
That is the first core application, predict and prepare. With this data, institutions can identify when a new technology is moving from a niche internet trend to a mandatory industry requirement.
They can see it coming.
Exactly. They can spot the wave before it crashes over them, allowing them to prepare supplementary materials before the market actually peaks.
So if they are spotting these trends, I assume they also use this data to figure out which massive tech companies they should actually be partnering with, because universities spend millions on enterprise software licenses.
That's the second application, guiding strategic partnerships. Deans use this actionable intelligence to make highly informed, data-backed decisions about which industry software providers or enterprise tools they should actually spend the money to bring onto campus.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And the final piece of the puzzle has to be using all of this data to essentially act as a shield for the faculty, right? To leave the tenured professors alone.
Protecting the core curriculum. By tracking these volatile surface skills separately on a macro-level dashboard, university leadership does not have to force their core curriculum through constant disruptive overhauls.
Thank goodness for that.
What's fascinating here is the sheer irony of the solution.
What do you mean?
Well, you are taking the most hyperdynamic, rapidly changing, volatile labor data available in the modern economy, and you are utilizing it specifically to protect the slow-moving traditional academic core.
Oh, that's brilliant. It makes me think of the university as a master luxurious cruise ship.
Okay, I like that.
Right. The core curriculum, the deep theory, is the ship itself, heavy, slow to turn, built for the long haul. The deans and the administrators are up in the bridge using this high-tech radar, the macro-level dashboards, to navigate the fast-moving surface waves and the chaotic storms which represent these trendy, volatile technical skills.
Spot on.
By tracking those surface waves so closely, they can keep the main ship sailing smoothly without making all the professors seasick with constant course corrections.
The dashboard acts as a necessary buffer. It tells the leadership exactly what is happening outside in the corporate ocean so they don't have to tear apart the inside of the academic ship to accommodate it.
So the data dashboards are a great solution for the deans up in the bridge. They have their actionable intelligence. But how does that data actually get into the brains of the students down in the classrooms? Especially if the whole point is that we are trying to do this without burdening the professors with constantly rewriting their lectures.
This is where we move from the macro-level dashboards to the micro-level learning solutions. The text introduces a specific platform model to address this exact bottleneck. They highlight something called the SkillDrift University version.
Let's get into SkillDrift. How does that work?
The concept here revolves around collaborative, AI-driven platforms designed to partner directly with academic institutions. Instead of relying on a multi-year syllabus rewrite, platforms like SkillDrift seamlessly layer highly contextualized micro-credentials right alongside the traditional curriculum.
A dynamic overlay. So the traditional class is happening, and this platform is running parallel to it. Walk me through a real-world scenario of what that actually looks like for a student.
Sure. Let's say it's Tuesday morning. A student goes to their foundational macroeconomics lecture. The professor focuses entirely on the deep economic theory, inflation, interest rates, traditional banking structures.
Right, the core hardware.
Exactly. The professor doesn't mention cryptocurrency once. Later that evening, the student logs into their university's SkillDrift platform. The platform, knowing they are in that specific macroeconomics class, feeds them bite-sized, highly contextualized modules on current fintech regulations.
Oh, that's smart.
Or it shows them how those specific historical economic theories apply to modern blockchain applications today.
So the professor doesn't have to suddenly become a blockchain expert overnight?
Not at all.
They just keep teaching the gold standard theory they've taught for 20 years, and the software platform handles the modern, rapidly changing context.
It creates a perfectly symbiotic learning environment. But the platform goes significantly beyond just delivering supplementary content. It actually proposes radically changing how we measure a student's success and employability.
Wait, how so?
Moving beyond traditional GPAs, the platform generates tangible job readiness scores.
Wait, I want to hover on this job readiness score
Yeah.
concept because that feels like a massive disruption to the whole college system. How does an AI actually calculate a score like that?
Well, think about it. A traditional GPA tells an employer how disciplined you are academically over 4 years.
Yeah.
But a job readiness score dynamically tracks a student's acquisition of these specific micro-credentials and maps them directly against the real-time employer demands pulled from those macro dashboards we discussed earlier.
Oh, wow.
It calculates how closely the student's current surface skills match the exact requirements of open job postings in their desired field today.
So theoretically, you could have two college seniors applying for the exact same financial analyst role.
Yes.
Candidate A has a pristine 4.0 GPA, but they only took the traditional foundational courses. Their job readiness score on the platform might only be a 30% because they don't know any of the modern software.
Oh, exactly.
But candidate B might have a 2.5 GPA. Maybe they struggled with the heavy math, but they've been devouring these SkillDrift micro-credentials on AI risk modeling. Their job readiness score could be a 99%.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this fundamentally changes the currency of hiring. It bridges the gap between academic theory and immediate corporate utility.
That is wild to think about.
It gives the university, the student, and the potential employer a perfectly clear, data-driven view of immediate market competitiveness.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What stands out to you? Think about your own resume right now. If you were to run your current resume through an AI to generate a job readiness score for your industry, what would it look like?
That's a scary thought for some people.
It is. Does your resume clearly show your foundational knowledge, your deep structural understanding of your field? And does it also show your dynamic surface skills, your fluency with the specific tools being used right this second? Or is it heavily skewed toward one or the other? Because what this white paper is arguing is that to survive the velocity gap, you absolutely need both.
That delicate balance between the foundational and the dynamic is what makes this evolution so impactful. The text actually explores how this collaborative approach ripples out and impacts every single stakeholder within a campus ecosystem.
Right. It fundamentally shifts roles.
Com-
If I'm a tenured professor, I have to imagine I'm breathing a massive sigh of relief.
Oh, totally. For the faculty, their deep expertise and mentorship remain the undeniable heartbeat of the university experience. They are freed from the exhausting expectation to chase fleeting tech trends on social media just to feel relevant to their students.
Which they hate doing anyway.
Right. They can focus entirely on what they do best, teaching critical thinking, ethics, and complex problem solving. Secure in the knowledge that their students are getting the latest industry skills via the micro-learning overlay.
And we already talked about the deans and the leadership having their radar dashboards, allowing them to protect the institutional legacy. But what about the career counselors?
Yes.
Because I remember my college career center being wildly overwhelmed. You'd go in, they'd glance at your resume for 2 minutes, tell you to use more action verbs, and send you out the door.
That generic experience is exactly what the platform aims to eliminate. University career centers struggle because they are trying to provide personalized guidance to thousands of students manually.
Which is impossible.
Right. But with platforms like SkillDrift, career counseling is done at scale. The AI handles the skill gap analysis. So when a student walks into the Career Center, the counselor isn't wasting time proofreading a resume.
They already know where the students stand.
Exactly. They are looking at the student's specific job readiness score, comparing it to real-time market data, and having a highly targeted, strategic session about which micro-credentials to tackle next. They become strategic career advisors rather than just editors.
And finally, the students themselves. They get to cherish that deep foundational learning and personal growth while simultaneously building a robust, immediately deployable toolkit.
It really is the best of both worlds.
So what does this all mean? Look, even if you are entirely finished with college, even if you haven't set foot on a university campus in 20 years, this entire framework is incredibly relevant to your life right now. Layering continuous micro-learnings of surface skills over a solid foundation of theoretical knowledge, that is the ultimate cheat code for continuous professional development. It's how you stay relevant in any industry, at any age, no matter how fast the technology moves.
This raises an important question about our broader cultural relationship with education. How do we balance respecting institutional legacy while fully embracing the tools of the future?
It's a tough balance.
It is. But what this text strongly suggests is that the future has to be a collaborative ecosystem. It is not a zero-sum game where traditional academia has to die for fast-paced industry demands to thrive. They can and must exist symbiotically.
It's all about closing that loop. The velocity gap is a very real threat. It is the reason so many people are questioning the value of a degree right now.
Yeah, you hear it all the time.
But universities don't have to choose between keeping their academic soul and providing modern employability. By combining deep foundational theory with macro-level data dashboards and layering on contextualized micro-learning platforms like SkillDrift, universities really can shape brilliant minds that are perfectly primed to jump in and lead the modern economy on day one.
It is a highly compelling vision for the future of education.
Hmm.
But as we look at this integration of dynamic overlays and real-time data, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
If AI-driven platforms are now generating real-time job readiness scores that intricately track these high-demand dynamic surface skills, how long will it be before corporate employers start valuing those specific micro-credential scores more than the foundational university degree that sits underneath them?
Oh, man.
Right. If the market moves as fast as we say it does, are we looking at a future where the overlay actually becomes the main attraction?
Wow. That is a wild thought. Is the temporary software eventually going to become more important than the permanent hardware? I guess we'll have to wait and see how the labor market reacts as these platforms roll out. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Whether you're a student building your foundation or a seasoned professional looking to upgrade your Surface software, keep learning, keep adapting, and we will catch you on the next one.